Steven
Very
and
nice to meet you.
as well host of the show.
Say again?
Steven. He's Steven,
yes.
Steven Gätjen, and he will host the premiere.
I will see you on stage.
Yes, okay,
at the Zoo Palace.
They warned us.
Ich habe mein Geheimnis noch keiner Menschenseele anvertraut.
Sie hatten diese Anfälle seit Ihrer Kindheit. Erzählen Sie mir, was Sie können von Anfang an.
Willem and Bill, I have to congratulate you. This is one of the best movies I've seen in a very long time, and I'm opposed to horror movies. It's not really my kind of genre, but it's amazing. Cool. What I would like to know is that I read that Robert, in preparation to shoot this movie, wrote an extensive, long book with background stories to each character and to the setting. Did you ever get to read it, and in what way did he actually prepare you for the world? I mean, you've worked with him for the third time.
I've worked with him 3 times, and he does do a lot of research. He gives you a lot of information to digest, and of course it helps with the pretending. It helps with entering the character. You know, I never saw that book, but we had worked together, and we have a shorthand. But I did dive into the research because it's fun, because my character is studied in the occult and in alchemy and things like that. So those things interest me. I don't have great knowledge about them, but I come to it, and I always feel like when you learn something, that changes you, and then that opens the door to be another person, really. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of traditional preparation, nothing crazy, but it works.
It did work. Bill, I think there are more than 170 movies about, you know, Nosferatu and Dracula.
Whoa,
170.
Yeah. What was important for you in creating something that people could, in some sort, relate to, but on the other hand, be something completely new to the genre? How did you go about creating Count Orlok? And especially, this is a 2-part question. I mean, your physical transformation is amazing, but what I loved about it is the breathing, the way that you used your voice. Yeah. If you could answer those 2 questions.
Yeah, I mean, it is 170. I didn't know that, but that's crazy. I think that it's Dracula and the stories is probably the most adapted novel of the modern era. I don't know. It must be if it's 170. So, and of course, Nosferatu is an extension of it, or a different kind of interpretation of it, and yeah, I mean, I felt it prepping for it, and when we showed up in Prague, and I sat down with Robert, and Robert was so excited, but he was also just like, why are we doing Nosferatu? He felt so much pressure of taking on this beast, and of course I was also taking on the literal beast of it in a way. So yeah, you know, Robert has, I read the script 8-9 years ago for the first time, and not a whole lot has changed in it throughout the years. So this is something that, a version of it that Robert has been meaning to tell ever since he was a little boy. So it was very specific with his interpretation of this iconic story, and the same thing with the character. So yeah, I knew it was going to be different. Everything, the look was going to be different. It's going to be very Robert Eggers. And then my way we talked about this earlier, he is very specific, and he knows what he wants, which I find very helpful. It's nice, and it's not restrictive, because he puts out, like, you know, this is the boundary, like, that you work within this space. And then you have to make this space as vast as you can, which is cool. It's like limitations is a useful tool in the creative process. And same thing goes with the research, which also, you know, it becomes more specific. And yeah, you know, I knew that the character's going to live in the shadows a lot, and the voice was the thing that we worked the hardest on. And what I love about Robert's writing, and his scripts are beautiful, and not only in the dialogue, but the descriptions as well. So again, it's just all these little tools in the descriptions of the breathing. There's pain in his breath, and there's pain in his speech as well. And like all those descriptions are in the script, which I kind of underlined and like, okay, here are all these little hints and tools for Robert's vision of him, and they're inspiring me to create something off of it.
It was amazing. Willem, I think the great thing is about, you just mentioned your research and you've been working with Robert for quite a while. Do you think, in some regards, because it's his pet project, he's been dreaming about it since he was a little child, a little boy?
Since 9 years old. He saw the Murnau movie. Yeah. Figure that.
At 9 years old, it's kind of scary. But would you say that your character is sort of Robert's...
It's him in the movie, basically. I mean... I always joked with him. He was an actor, and he understands the language of actors very much. So I said, "This is the role you would play," and he said, "Absolutely." So that had a special allure for me to play the role that he would do. When I was listening to Bill, one thing that's really remarkable about Rob is he loves these period things so much, and he enters them, and it's really it's his way of expressing what's happening to him now and what's happening in the world now. It's not calculated, but I mean they're living for him. They aren't museum pieces. And for example, something like even his approach to the look of this, of Orlok, it's a daunting task given there are so many versions. But he roots it in a kind of research that's historic. He takes takes it kind of literally. He figures, what would a dead, Romanian count look like? So he researches the costumes. He researches how someone would look when they were dead that long. All kinds of things. What a Romanian man would look like at that point. All these things. So it has a kind of logic and a kind of it's rooted, like everything in the world that he creates. And that's only significant because as I was doing a lot of research that he was giving me, beautiful things to learn, you start to recognize of the myth, of the lore of vampires and all that, what is invented by cinema and what is based on history, because a lot of it is based on folk legends and things like that. And even, let's face it, the Dracula was a lot of invented stuff that was inspired by folk legends. So he's playing around with these things in what I think is an interesting way that really roots it and doesn't make it, it uses movie language, but it's not just a movie. It feels very present and living, and I feel like when you watch his movies, they're very easy to enter because he's not pointing to what it is. He's not showing. He's in creating a world that really lives for him.